Again, Adrian Wojnarowski of The Vertical, which is rocking and rolling almost 24/7 right now, and legitimately 24/7, which I know international NBA fans enjoy. But just this past week alone, Woj broke stories regarding Jeff Hornacek's firing or the latest on George Karl in the wee hours of the night. And we didn't even get around to the Karl talk because there was just almost too much to talk about regarding The Vertical and how its uniqueness from other outlets of the media, and our talk about the Celtics and other various NBA comings and goings, which, if you listen to the interview, that all tied into each other there. There was a lot of talk this past week. It started very early in the week. Some of it I find frustrating. Not the trade rumors itself, but the reactions to them by the greater portions of the NBA audience. I thought Woj did an exceptional job really laying out for the audience of this show how to decipher through a lot of these so-called reports. I know a new and very creative way for a lot of reporters, and some of them are not even reporters, by the way, just people who have Twitter accounts. But now a little creative way to generate interest is to report something like Team X and Team Y, quote, have discussed, end quote, a deal for really good player Z. And that little have discussed, that's very crafty. It could be nothing more than a courtesy call placed by either team, and a name was thrown out there that fans recognize. Therefore, they go ahead and attach it to teams, and there you go. Someone throws a little nugget out there. Anywhere on the internet, that's all that's needed. Now, here's where that process begins. Once that's out there, a few sources of the media, be it mainstream or alternative, the blogs, whatever, they jump on it, they slap report on a headline, and they make it a headline as crafty as possible. And that headline makes you want to simply retweet it to your followers or share it amongst your friends on Facebook without even reading the article. And then your friends and followers start doing the same thing, and then it travels from there. And then the outlets pick it up because they know that generates page views. And because all these outlets are then picking up the very exact same story, and I use quotes around story because it may not even be just that, but because they all pick it up, it then leads more and more fans to believe that all of this action is going down. There's more and more fuel being added to these fires. The talk shows pick it up. And then by this time, especially this time of the year, by the way, February, we got the Super Bowl tonight. And as we know, once that goes, there's absolutely nothing of true significance happening in the sporting world. Once that's out of here, there's all sorts of airtime to fill on these shows. And then there are more and more of these so-called white-hot rumors being discussed. Because you, as a fan, as an observer of NBA basketball, because you see it everywhere, then you are more and more inclined to believe that there's like this legitimate deal out there that suits both teams, and a lot of times there's just not. Things are going great here for the Boston Celtics. They've won 8 of 9 coming off that huge win on Friday against the Cavs, and they have a very winnable game today against Sacramento before the schedule toughens up this week, and when the team goes out west after the All-Star break. Things are going well now. But if and when the team loses 3 out of 4, as Rich Connie so eloquently pointed out in the Facebook group, you'll then see fans, why didn't Danny Ainge pull the trigger on that Howard trade? When sometimes it may not really, a deal may not have gotten that far where any of the teams could have pulled the trigger on it. But there are a few weeks before the deadline here. So obviously things can change. Things evolve from certain points. Talks can heat up. And as Woj said, they do have to evolve from something. That is why I am very excited about The Vertical here. It is the original content, which is something we've gotten further and further away from here as social media continues to grow. Algorithms on search engines can now deliver content to you based on the data they've accumulated on you. They can gear it for you. So now gone is doing things the old-fashioned way, even the old-fashioned way on the internet. Who remembers logging on to ESPN.com, the Boston Globe's website, the same way we used to pick up the newspaper and read around, maybe read what the opponents were saying on other websites, other blogs even. But now everything is delivered to us, and we think it's wonderful because it's so easy. But so much of it is delivered based on the traffic some of the sources have already generated. And since the new decade here, we have seen the biggest of corporate media outlets, one that the common American believes are credible, as pointed out in this feature that I mentioned with Woj that ran on the big lead. Even the biggest outlets are cutting corners. They're taking shortcuts at every imaginable opportunity to save money and maximize revenue. So because you see some headline from 3 or 4 letter network X, you think, oh, well, I saw it here and I saw it there. Wow, that's a huge story. It came from this place, and we all know that's a great source of news. But in fact, that very well could have likely been written by some unpaid college intern who then went ahead and infused the whole thing with SEO steroids. So it's very exciting for me. And I know for others who are huge basketball fans, to see someone like Adrian Wojnarowski, a veteran journalist himself, and someone who's proven to have tremendous respect for his craft and tremendous respect for what the primary purpose of journalism is, really taking a lead here and re-emphasizing the value of, I hate this type of phrase, but the value of quality over quantity. I'm not going to lie, as a basketball fan, that's why I've been doing the show every week for the last 4 years, to really exemplify the fact that I am a fan of this. I've already set sports.yahoo.com/Woj as my homepage because it's entirely twofold. A, looking at it as a basketball fan, wanting to become more informed. Just in what it's been, the 10 days since it's released here, the content already, in my eyes, infinitely supersedes almost all that is out there. And B, the success and coming success of an entrepreneurial venture like this will, I hope, I pray, end some of the most appalling practices nowadays in all aspects of the media. As Abraham Lincoln once said, you can fool some of the people all of the time. You can fool all of the people some of the time. But you cannot fool all of the people all of the time. And I'm not being fooled when it comes to what's going on here, and it hurts me when I see my fellow countrymen continue to be fooled, even if it is something as harmless and as trivial as freaking NBA basketball. But why am I going on about this? Why do I feel this bad? Okay, in the sporting world, this is not really detrimental outside. It frustrates people like me, seeing that there are still some very ignorant portions of society and some people that may be infested with ADD. But in the sporting world, it is not a life-threatening issue. Like, what's the worst that's going to come out of this? Certain players are upset that they may be hearing their names in trade rumors when they thought they were as a different type of relationship they felt they had with their coaching staff or front office, and either they or their agent have to go to the coaches or the executives and go, hey, what the hell is going on here, guys? And then the team has to further explain the situation. That is uncomfortable, of course, yes, but this is sports. However, this happening in the basketball world and the sports media, this serves as a microcosm and just an example of how it can actually go down in other aspects and real and far more serious aspects of life, if it hasn't already. I wrote a featured piece about this on SealHonestRadio.com, where I spoke to many longtime Boston sports media members around this time last year. It's in the archives under my name if you want to check it out on the website. But let's say there's this type of stuff that happens because of some arsonist out there in the dark corners of the internet manipulating some story that may offend a group of people or offend a group of people that may be enemies of this country. Then it goes through that same process that many of these headline-grabbing basketball stories do. Social media spreading, retweeting the headlines, outlets pick it up because other outlets grab it, more and more jump in, and then because it's quote-unquote all over the internet, it must be a huge story, so you got to talk about it on the shows. Lo and behold, you can then piss off a group of people so much, or you start spreading information that can be twisted in some ways that enemies of America may feel they are being threatened, so therefore they have to act. And yes, let's end it there. Lives would then be at stake. This is a national security issue. This is an issue of national security. So if there's ever a way to close a show on a more darker note than that, I do not recall finishing in such a manner in the 143 times this show has aired. But as I've always said, to quote a great mind, the ends justify the means. Thanks for listening. To hear the complete interview, click the link in the description below. Also, feel free to subscribe to Celtics Beat on various outlets such as iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or SoundCloud so you don't miss any future content courtesy of the #1 podcast on the web which covers the Boston Celtics.